I remember clearly the day, I think it was John Berman from CNN was interviewing Franklin Graham. It was at the beginning of President Obama's first term. And John Berman asked a straight question to Franklin Graham, and Franklin Graham gave him a straight answer. Berman said, do you believe President Obama is a Muslim? Franklin Graham said, no. I take him at his word that he's a Christian. He's been attending a Christian church for 20 years. The next question, well, how come so many Christians, so many Republicans on your side think that he's a Muslim? So Franklin Graham said, well, in Muslim countries, whatever the child is, whatever the father's religion is, the child becomes that. So President Obama said his father was a Muslim when he lived in Kenya, and he grew up in Kenya. He went to a Muslim school, so that's why a lot of people think he's a Muslim. That was the context of it. The next clip, the next show, so I think it was Rick Sanchez at the time, if my memory serves me right. This is a long time ago. I might have the names wrong, but this is how it went down. So the one show was like from 12 to 1, and then, the live interview with Franklin Graham. And then at 1 o'clock, Rick Sanchez opens up his show by saying, Franklin Graham says President Obama is a Muslim. And then he shows a clip of saying, well, in Muslim countries, the child becomes whatever the father is. And Obama's father is a Muslim, and Obama went to a Muslim school, and the clip totally ripped it out of context. This is why I always tell people to look at everything in context. The Bible especially, church tradition especially, what the Pope says especially in these times. And don't care about who's right. Care about what's right. Because so many people in these days, they get caught up in these camps, and you agree with someone on 90% of the things that he supports, so then you take him at his word for everything. And there could be 10% of poison. Like our Mormon brothers and sisters are pro-life, they're pro-traditional marriage. But there's a part of their theology that will send you straight to hell if you're a Mormon. They do not recognize the Trinity. So, that's an extreme example. However, context is everything. And, when I first came back to the Catholic Church, I loved Taylor Marshall. I only knew him from the St. Thomas Institute videos. And I genuinely liked him and learned a lot from him. I ordered his book, Eternal City, then a book about, Thomas Aquinas in 50 pages, and I was learning from him. But then when I started listening to his current YouTubes, I was like, wow, this guy's using the tactics of the left to attack the Pope, And I knew because I would listen to what the Pope actually said, and then listen to what Taylor Marshall's interpretation of what the Pope said. And I was like, wow, this guy is in schism, and he's leading thousands of Catholics to schism. And then I did a little research, and I found out that almost half of his viewers, his subscribers, admit they're Vaticanus. They don't accept Vatican II. They don't accept these popes. And all I got to say to that is, just because you don't like Vatican II doesn't mean you can disobey Vatican I. I'm going to talk about that later in a couple other videos. But today, I just want to show you, I got to get ready for Mass. I haven't even taken a shower yet. But just quickly, the most recent thing that Taylor Marshall lied about Pope Francis. I'm going to show you what Pope Francis said, and then I'll play a short clip. I think it's 3 minutes, not even, of what Taylor Marshall said he said. So we'll go. This is on Roe v. Wade. And it's an hour and a half interview. Again, it's an hour and a half interview with Reuters. And Marshall takes a little clip of it. and you'll see what he does. So they asked him, well, what do you think about this Roe v. Wade decision in America? You know, he's in Rome, grew up in South America, so you know it's a whole different country, different laws than he grew up with. So he says, I tell you the truth. All right, I'm going to be honest. I don't understand it from a technical point of view. I know Americans that lived here their whole life that I have to explain it to. And in fact, when I had the great scholar Francis Beckwith on my show, he was so confident. This was months ago. He was so confident it was going to be overturned, and he gave the technical reason why it just didn't make any sense. It was just bad law. Most people, you know, I learned that day some things I didn't know. So most people don't understand this, you know, this law from 50 years ago. So that's all he's saying. From a technical point of view, he's being honest. He ain't acting like a know-it-all like some of these guys. I have to study it. I don't really understand the details of the ruling 50 years ago. And now I can't say whether it did right or wrong from a judicial point of view. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a legal scholar. I'm not real familiar with the details of the law, so I can't tell you, like, judicially, like Francis Beckwith said, that was a horrible judicial, from a technical judicial point of view, it was bad. He said, I can't say that because I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a scholar, I don't really understand your law. However, I respect the decision. But then, like any good evangelist will do, he goes right to the heart of the matter. That's just like, you know, the media's just trying to hook him on, you know, throwing some red herring to get his attention away from the heart of the matter. That's what tactic of the left, red herrings. If you've never heard that term, red herring, so it's a political term. To get off subject, if you're debating someone, you will bring up something that has nothing to do with what you're talking about, just like confuses people. And they got that term from years ago when dogs would track people. People being tracked would get fish and rub it all over their tracks. So that it would stop the dogs and then would throw the fish, and the dog would go after the red herring, the fish, rather than the actual person. So to me, that was a red herring. He's a good evangelist. He comes right back to the heart of the matter, which is abortion. Leaving the Supreme, this is Pope Francis speaking now. Right after he says, I respect the decision of the Supreme Court. Leaving the Supreme Court decision aside, let's go back to the issue of abortion. So Pope Francis brings them back to the issue of abortion, which is a problem. He said it's important to look at what science has learned in the past few decades. It's a great way to win a pro-life argument. I do it all the time. You know, usually these liberals are all about the science. All about the science. Well, let's look at the science. He knows he's talking to a bunch of liberal atheists, so let's look at the science. It is important to look at what science has learned in the past few decades. In this way, we have to be scientific. See what science tells us today. Science today, and any book on embryology, the one our medical students study, tell you that 30 days after conception, there is DNA and the laying out already of all the organs. So scientifically, it's a baby. You know, this ridiculous argument, it's my body. No, it's a separate body. This is what he's saying. You know, the ridiculous argument of the left, it's just a clump of cells. He's proving it wrong on an international stage. And then he says, is it legitimate? Is it right to eliminate a human life to resolve a problem? So he already established it's a human life. So he got rid of the red herrings. And then he said, it is a human life. That's science. It's a human life. That's science. He's telling these people, you know, you may not be religious, you may not believe in God, but it's science. It's a human life. Now, the moral question is it right to take a human life to solve a problem? Indeed, is it right to hire a hitman to solve a problem? That was a great defense of the pro-life position, a great defense of our unborn children that the left wants to murder. And like I said, it's an hour and a half video interview. I'm not going to go through everything, but at one point they ask him, "What do you think about politicians not being able to get communion?" And this is what he says: "When the church loses its pastoral nature, when a bishop loses his pastoral nature, it causes a political problem. That's all I can say." And he's right. Now, does that mean you can't ban people from taking the Eucharist? Of course not. That's not what he said. In fact, he gave pastoral direction to the United States Conference of Bishops when they asked him this question: should we ban all politicians who are pro-abortion from taking the Eucharist? And he said, follow then Cardinal Ratzinger's pastoral letter on this issue, now Pope Benedict. And in the letter it said, to pastor someone, if there's a politician who's pushing abortion, you need to and they claim to be Catholic, you need to pastor them and bring them to repentance. But if they keep resisting, then use your judgment to ban them. And this is what Nancy Pelosi's bishop did, and a lot of us, including me, thought he was too patient. But I'm not the bishop, he's the bishop. And in his pastoral wisdom, he gave her time. He talked to her. He said he talked to her on the phone. And who knows? These politicians lie through their teeth. Who knows what they told the bishop? Yes, I'm praying about it. I'm thinking, who knows? But then when she totally resisted and came out with the most pro-abortion bill, she pushed through and got passed in the Congress. Luckily, enough Republicans in the Senate that they had no chance of getting through the Senate, which would allow abortion through the entire pregnancy, up until the point where you're about to give birth. And no restrictions allowed by any state. I mean, if that got passed through, this would have been worse than what the Nazis did. And that's not hyperbole. Once she did that, he's like, okay, now it's time. And he banned her from having communion. And the Pope supported that position. Now, he doesn't, and then when I called Bishop Corleone's office, I talked to his staff and invited him on my show. I said, I support his decision. All my subscribers support his decision. I would like him to come on and explain why he made that decision, and what the process is. And she said, right now he wants to show respect to the speaker, so he doesn't want to go out talking about everything. So me and you were like, respect? You don't deserve respect. She didn't respect all those babies she's had butchered. But this is not how they see it. Am I right? Are they right? This is how they see it. They were given the authority of the church, and they see there's a certain line they got to walk for whatever reason, where they don't want to get too political. They want to stay pastoral. So a lot of people criticize that comment. I don't think it's a bad comment. The heart, again, you can throw up red herrings, you can throw up straw men. The heart of the matter is abortion. Pope Francis said it as clearly and as plainly as you could say it. It is a life. And if you take that life, it's like hiring a hitman. If you hire an abortionist, you're hiring a hitman. Now, let's see what Taylor Marshall has. Taylor Marshall read the same thing I read. Let's see how he's going to tell you. Now, I think most Catholics now know where Taylor Marshall's coming from. Most of his followers are schismatics or Protestants. I have a lot of my Protestant friends always quoting Taylor Marshall to me, saying, well, this was what Taylor Marshall said. He's a Catholic. I mean, he's the best tool for Satan and the Protestants to attack the church. I'm not saying that's his motive. I'm just saying he is. Because I'm in the field. I'm not some $1 million mansion like Taylor Marshall, sitting behind a computer, taking trips to France and Italy, bashing the Pope. I'm out there every day in the field trying to win Protestants back to the Catholic Church. And I'm telling you what they're telling me. They're quoting Taylor Marshall. They're no longer quoting Jack Chick. They're no longer quoting James White. They're quoting Taylor Marshall. That's a fact. So this is why I get a little heated. So this is what the great, wise Taylor Marshall had to say, sitting in his $1 million mansion.
When asked about the overturn of the landmark 1973 ruling, Roe v. Wade, which imposed abortion on all 50 states, the Pope said, quote, he cannot speak about it from a juridical point of view, end quote. The weird thing about it is he's constantly talking about legal, juridical things in the church. For example, the Latin Mass. He even talks about legal, juridical issues on my southern border here in Texas. He talks about American politics frequently. Pope Francis says, when the church...
So that's also a tactic of the left. Again, the red herring. I totally agree with Taylor Marshall about the southern border. I disagree with Pope Francis on the southern border. But we're not talking politics. And we could disagree with our Holy Father on politics. We can't disagree on faith and morals. And we can't disrespect him and not recognize him as Pope Francis, as the Pope. You know, you can say like Taylor Marshall, oh, I know he's a Pope, I just disagree with him. You know, my atheist friends know he's the Pope. You see these little word things he does to try and act like he's not schismatic? But watch how he refers when he calls him totally disrespectful. Francis, like he's just some dude on the street. Francis, like he's just some politician. This is our Holy Father. Remember, he's talking about our Holy Father. He's talking about the Pope of the universal church.
Church loses its pastoral nature. When a bishop loses his pastoral nature, it causes a political problem. That's all I can say, end quote. Let me just take a time out here. Francis, are you saying that the one holy, Catholic, and apostolic church has lost its pastoral nature? That's a problem. I'm pretty sure, according to Catholic ecclesiology, the church never loses her pastoral nature. We just had the Pastoral Council. Paul VI and every pope since then, and almost every priest I've ever heard in the Novus Ordo says it was a pastoral council. So how can we have the mega pastoral council and then the church loses its pastoral nature and bishops lose their pastoral nature and it causes a political problem? I can't think of an era in the last 2,000 years before the pastoral council in which there were secular princes, kings, queens, emperors, archdukes, dukes, who were allowed publicly and scandalously to receive communion as they actively worked against the church's faith and morals. I mean, look what happened to Henry VIII when he tried that. Elizabeth I, Theodosius I. He killed people in Thessalonica. Ambrose said, don't you step into this church. Not only you're not receiving communion, you can't even come inside the doors of the church until you do penance and recognize your sins. That's the real Catholicism. The church didn't lose its pastoral nature during the time of Theodosius, 4th century. What are we even talking about here, Francis? And then at the end, that's all I can say. No, it's not all you can say, Francis. I'm sorry. You can say a whole lot more. We are here listening. You have a lot to say about American politics. You have a lot to say about immigration in Europe and in North America. You're happy to pontificate on these issues. But on this, it's obscure.
So notice, he never once mentioned abortion. He never said the word abortion. He never said what Pope Francis said about abortion. So there's a lot more I want to say, but I'm going to leave the rest to God. Pray about this. If you subscribe this man, you're helping him cause a schism. You know, I don't care how much money he's making from this. You know, I believe in capitalism if he wants to make a ton of money. But when you're making money off of cause a schism in the one holy Catholic Apostolic Church, I got a problem with it. And, you know, I know he's a big kahuna in the Catholic world, and I'm just a blue-collar guy, and it's David versus Goliath. But let the slingshot go. That's all I can say about that. God bless.